Yo, what's going on, world? It's your boy Cuff with the true. Whoa, it's been so damn long. I'm fucking up. Let's just say this first and foremost. Sorry for the hiatus. It's been a long time. As you can see, a little rusty. You know what I'm saying? Between the holidays and my kids coming from Texas to visit for 2 weeks, and then life. I was just gonna say life hitting us. Yeah, it's been a whole lot, but yeah, we back, man. The Unusual Monsters True Crime Podcast. It's your homeboy Cuff.
Hey, your girl T. What's going on?
And as always, I'll kick it off for the new listeners. Y'all might not know, but she always watches true crime stuff all the time. So, between her telling me stories and then watching the documentaries, which is more my lane, that and short stories or whatever it may be, I got into this, man, and we started this, and so far so good. She killing it. So, you know what I'm saying? Give it a little. So today we got a story. Once again, I haven't heard anything yet. I like to go into it and give y'all my real reaction when she's telling the story. So, what you got for us today?
Okay, well, I'm gonna be rusty because I haven't done this forever. And you know what? I ain't even gonna lie, y'all. It took me forever to get through this story. This is long as shit. So bear with me. Definitely gonna be a 2-part thing, so you gotta come back to hear
gotta
the
come
end.
back. Come back.
Because it's gonna be a long one. So let's go ahead, hop in here. We are going to Pennsylvania today, but as always, the way, like, little viewer and listener discretion, it's very graphic. It is a lot. Make sure your kids ain't listening, because And once again, rest in peace to the family, to the victims, and our condolences to the families.
Yes, you know it. And real quick, usually we get into the podcast, so we did a little banter before we started. So the 2-minute mark, man, y'all know what that means. Mary J. Woo! Man, I love that little clip. For those who don't know, we on YouTube. We add little stuff like that into it. So if you want to see the visual, definitely look us up. Unusual Monsters True Crime Stories on YouTube.
Yeah, so look, and I know y'all probably like, why they sitting with the shades on? Don't worry about why we sitting with the shades on. You can do that shit.
We're here to fuck shit up.
Let's get into it. So, as always, we got a little name for these. It's 2 people for these guys, and they are called, you ready? The ToolBox Killers. Have you heard of them?
Never heard of them, but I fuck with their name, though.
What you think? What is it
fuck
giving?
with their name. I fuck with their name. That's the wrong button right there, but I fuck with their name, though. There we go.
What do you think today's story is about?
The ToolBox Killers. Man. Where would I go with that one? I guess I'm gonna be a little real basic, maybe even lame when I say this, but I almost want to say obviously, but I was wrong last time I did that. You know what I mean? So I'll never say that shit again. But I'm gonna say that they were just using tools to kill people, hammers and screwdrivers and pliers and shit like that. You know what I'm saying?
Baby, you were piping hot. Look at you.
Hey, here we go.
Give them a high five.
Yes.
Okay. All right, y'all. So let's jump into it. So today we will be talking about Lawrence. I have tried to figure out how to pronounce this man's name. I have even actually heard a couple of the people that I follow. Shout out to Bailey Sarian and Mr. Ball, and they have covered this story, but it's still kind of not known. So I don't know how to say his last name, but we're gonna hope for the best, and this is how I'm gonna say it. So Lawrence Bitticker and Roy Norris, and these is 2 motherfuckers. So get ready, sit tight, you're gonna be angry. So as always, I got a little backstory. So first we're gonna start with Lawrence. So Lawrence Bitticker was born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania on September 27th, 1940, to a couple who had chosen to not have kids. So starting off rocky. He was placed in an orphanage by his birth mother and was adopted by Mr. and Mrs. George Bitticker as an infant. Bitticker's adoptive father worked in the aviation industry, which required the family to frequently move around the United States throughout his childhood. So, moving around, but it's unfortunate. Usually when the cases start off like that, it never ends well, and it starts off horrible.
Move around a lot. Doesn't get a chance to redevelop friends
and then your parents didn't want you, like, just toss you in the orphanage.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. So Bitticker would start his criminal career at the age of 12 when he was arrested for shoplifting. Bitticker's criminal career would grow over the next 4 years after arrest for the same offenses, in addition to petty theft, which brought him to the attention of juvenile authorities. Bitticker would later claim numerous theft-related offenses committed throughout his adolescence for the lack of love he received from his parents. So that was his reasoning for his
Yeah, I
acting
always feel
out.
like it's hard for me to not say that in most cases it seems like these things could have been prevented,
Yeah,
you know? Um Now I will give grace to some, people that when it happened way, way back in the day like that,
yeah.
they weren't as educated on like
Different
mental health
times.
and stuff.
Yeah.
So like,
They didn't know what
I
the fuck was
wouldn't,
going on.
you know what I'm saying?
All they thought about was praying over the kid and taking him
Yeah,
to the church and
yeah. But
shit like
these
that.
days, maybe that's one reason why it's less common. And also these days you're gonna get caught a lot faster because of the forensics and stuff. But
And technology is just so
yeah.
fucking advanced. So
But I do feel like early stages in kids' lives, there might be signs what we see as parents, and we may ignore them because we don't want our kid to be labeled as a certain thing. But
true. I
if
mean,
they have some of that in them, it probably is best to get it looked at.
yeah.
Hey, go ahead.
All right. So, although he had an IQ of 138, nigga, smart as shit, Bitticker considered school to be a tedious experience and dropped out of high school in 1957. By this time in his teenage years, Bitticker and his adoptive parents were living in California. Within a year of him dropping out of school, he had been arrested for car theft, a hit and run, and evading arrest. Mm.
My boy's wilding early.
Oh, early. For these offenses, he was imprisoned at the California Youth Authority, where he remained until he was 18. Once released, Bitticker discovered that his adoptive parents had disowned him and had moved to another state. Got little on his ass, boy. They ain't got time for you.
Wait, so his real parents didn't want him. Then his adopted parents
Hell yeah,
dipped
this
on him.
nigga acting been cutting up since he was a little demon child. What's that movie where they adopt the kid and that nigga was a
It's a
psycho
couple
killer?
of them. Yeah,
And
it's one with a
the girl
boy,
on the
with a
lake
girl.
on the lake shit, and then
Yeah,
the girl go through the lake. Yeah, whatever. But
yeah.
that
Something we
shit.
watched a little bit recently. I feel like, but yeah.
Okay, but yeah, and he would never see his adoptive parents again. So but that's how we gonna pause on his backstory for a little bit. Now we gonna jump into this other nigga, but that's unfortunate. Where we in there. So let's get into it. Mr. Roy Norris was born in, bear with me, Greeley, Colorado. Shout out to them. Hope I said that right. On February 4th, 1948. He could have been a Pisces, but thank God he not here an Aquarius. They knew what they was doing. Since Norris was conceived out of wedlock, his parents married to avoid the social stigma surrounding illegitimate birth at the time. So, back in the day, you can't be having kids out of wedlock. That's a shame on the family and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
hmm Norris's family lived close due to his grandfather's real estate investment. So I guess his grandfather had a bunch of land and shit. So the family kind of stayed all near each other, a little neighborhood of motherfuckers. His father worked in a scrap yard, and his mother was a drug addicted housewife. So we, you see where it's going.
Man, it's crazy, man. Like
You see where it's going.
to be born with those type of parents and for them to raise you can result in so much. Not to put all the blame on that, but just can result in
You really
certain
don't stay in the fight.
mental
Jail,
issues, right?
goddamn.
And then you would, the best option. Before I say the best option, in my opinion, I would say what end up happening is they either get raised with them and it messes them up mentally, emotionally, whatever it may be, right?
Mm.
Or they get adopted is by people who maybe just want to get a check. So as they still get messed up, also knowing the real parents gave them up, they still messed up emotionally, mentally, right?
Yeah.
The best option to me is like what my mom did with my little cousin. My auntie passed away. My mom, which is my auntie's sister,
Right.
adopted my little cousin. I think family should be the first.
But
It is not it doesn't seem to be a super common thing, but family should be the first to adopt, family.
in these cases, don't seem like they really had too many options to go to some other family. Like it just kind of seemed like they was kind of fucked anyway. Like,
And
well,
this is way back in the day too, so things are a
true.
little different probably.
Right. He occasionally lived with his parents throughout his childhood and teens, but was repeatedly placed in the care of foster families throughout the state of Colorado. Norris remembers being neglected by many of the foster families he lived with, frequently being denied self sufficient food or clothing. He also claimed of being sexually abused when living with an Hispanic family, later stating the prejudice he had toward Hispanic people originated from the neglect and abuse he endured as a child when placed in the care of this family.
Mm.
When Norris was 16 and living with his birth parents, Norris visited the home of a female relative and began speaking to her in a sexually suggestive manner. She ordered him to leave and would tell his father, who threatened to beat his ass. Norris subsequently, damn, that struggle, stole his father's car and drove into the Rocky Mountains, where he attempted to commit suicide by injecting pure air into an artery in his arm. He was later apprehended as a runaway and returned to live with his parents. No, they should have took his ass a little psych ward. Wrong. They sent him
Yeah,
home.
for
No, he
real.
should have been getting mentally eval. You know what I'm saying? But I
And
mean,
once again, it's back in
the
the
time.
days,
Yeah, I was just gonna
so
say,
because
timing was a
these days I would
motherfucker.
like to
Yeah.
believe with all the mental health stuff going on that these stories wouldn't be like this.
I
Probably,
guess.
I would say the percentage goes
But
down.
you know what? Even back in the day, they used to do wild shit. I'm gonna have to get into some to, steer away from serial killers because back in the day, stories of the mental health facilities,
Yeah.
yo, the shit they used to do to people,
Oh well, that too.
the shock
Yeah,
therapy, they was zapping the
yeah,
shit out of motherfuckers. No,
yeah. So you might
like
not want your kid to go to that anyway. Yeah, yeah. I can
back
see
then in
that.
the 50s and 60s, they was just testing out on your ass. Like, yeah, okay. Once Norris had returned home, Norris's parents informed him that he and his younger sister were unwanted children and that they intended to divorce when both reached their teens. Like, damn, they
Why
bold
you
as
didn't
hell.
tell them that?
That's what I said. Like,
Damn.
fuck. Like, womp, womp, womp. Just fuck my life. Like, yeah. A year later, Norris dropped out of school and joined the United States Navy. This is like, you want to have hope that he gonna go on to be great, but like the skills he learned and what goes on to happen is just yeah. He was stationed in San Diego in 1965 and was developed to service. I'm sorry, deployed to service in the Vietnam War in 1969. Although he did not see active combat during his 4-month tour of duty, he was honorably discharged from the Navy after a tour on duty.
Of
So this nigga
course.
ain't do shit. And probably was around there fucking with folks. Don't really get into it. All right. So now we gonna hop back to the first dude, Bitticker, and he got a long line in the fists. They criminal career is outrageous. So back to Bitticker. Within days of his parole from the California Youth Authority, Bitticker was arrested for transporting a stolen vehicle across the state lines. Like I laugh because like with all the stories, they just hop back into some shit every time. Like
Yeah.
fuck. In August 1959, Bitticker was sentenced to 18 months imprisonment to be served in the Oklahoma State Penitentiary. I can't even say reformatory. Jeez, I can't say. Damn, that's the show. If I take these bitches out. He was later transferred to the Medical Center for Federal Prisoners in Springfield, Missouri, to serve the remainder of his sentence. So I guess that's could have helped, but yeah, it didn't.
I'm happy in this story that well, I mean, I guess it's kind of just getting kicked off, but it seemed like they are getting consequences for the things that they done at least.
Yeah, like they ain't getting going just doing shit and ain't getting
Yeah, 'cause
caught
we
like
had some
some of them.
story
Oh
people just
yeah,
was like wilding for a long time before
yeah,
anything happened.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
So what you doing, son? Nothing. Just chilling. Killing. True, true. Ah, shit, son. Yo, what the deal? Yo, y'all watching this tape right now? That means I didn't make it. Either I'm a prisoner or worse, dead. But either way it goes, I'm gonna tell y'all the rules to survive this situation. Rule number 1, you gotta be quick. Rule number 2, don't fall down. And rule number 3, whatever you do, never look back. Y'all wish me luck. Snatch and run, y'all! Come back here, you motherfucker! You son of a bitch!
Alright, so in 1960, Bitticker was released from prison and soon reverted to crime. Within months of his release, he had been arrested in Los Angeles for robbery and in May 1961 was sentenced to 15 years imprisonment. While incarcerated for this robbery, he was characterized by a psychiatrist as being highly manipulative, The psychiatrist also described Bitticker as having considerable concealed hostility. Bitticker was released on parole in 1963 after serving 2 years of his sentence. In October 1964, he was again in prison for parole violation. In 1966, Bitticker underwent further examinations by two independent psychiatrists, both of whom classified him as a borderline psychopath. So,
Oh, it was on him.
yeah. And that's because he just kept going back to fucking back. Bitticker explained to one of them that his criminal activities gave him a feeling of self-importance. Although he insisted circumstantial matters pertaining to his environment and upbringing decreased his ability to resist committing crimes. Bitticker was prescribed an antipsychotic med. A year later, he was once again released into society. So
This is also dude who had the super high IQ, right?
yeah.
Okay, right. Because he seemed, even his like when he gave his reasoning, it
He
seemed
done
like he has a
thought
certain
out,
type of
like, you know how they said, but remember the first psychiatrist said he's highly manipulative.
Yeah,
like, they
right.
You know what he's doing to get up out of there. Okay, but anywho, yeah. A month after his parole in July 1967, Bitticker was again arrested and convicted of theft and leaving the scene of an accident. He was sentenced to 5 years, but released in April 1970. And go ahead, you guys want to say?
Yeah, I was gonna say he got 15 years at one point, right?
Got out early.
And got out early. Okay, so he done did some good time
Yeah,
before.
yeah.
Okay.
Like he do like maybe 2-3 years of these sentences, and
Yeah.
then he get out. It seemed like where I was at. In March 1971, Bitticker was arrested again for burglary. Due to repeated parole violations, he was sentenced to serve between 6 months and 15 years imprisonment in October 1971. 3 years later, Bitticker was again released from prison. So he got sentenced, ended up only doing 3 years. So he keep getting 15 seemed to be his number. They keep giving him about 15 years. He don't never do none of that shit for real. Like, what the fuck? Got to do better. But anywho, in 1974, Bitticker was arrested for assault with attempt to commit murder after he stabbed a young supermarket employee who had accused him of stealing. So this is kind of his first violent offense. The employee had observed him stealing a steak and had followed Bitticker outside and into the store's parking lot. I was taught not to do that when I worked at TJ Maxx. Don't do that. Don't follow nobody else.
Yeah, why would you do that? You leave yourself vulnerable. You know, that's crazy. I'm cool. I'm not following nobody outside.
They ain't have security cameras and shit like that back then, so I guess. Where he asked Bitticker whether he had forgotten to pay. So he tried to play a smooth, like, come on, sir, you forgot to pay or something, I got you. This nigga stabbed his ass. But anyway, Bitticker responded.
Damn, he stabbed dude when he came out there to collect the money?
Bitticker responded by stabbing his pursuer in the chest, narrowly missing his heart. He attempted to flee, but was quickly restrained by two other employees. So they gave him an employee beatdown. That's what happened. The employee, Gary Louis, survived the stabbing, and Bitticker was convicted of the lesser charge of assault with a deadly weapon. I don't know how he barely missed his heart, but okay.
I mean, that should be attempted murder first and foremost. But even past that, he haven't had so many past offenses.
Like, why are we giving him a lesser charge? Y'all should be wanting to keep this nigga up.
And then he keep getting out early with all these. It's like, how many times y'all let dudes? It's a little weird.
Every time, man.
It's a little weird.
And sent to California men's colony in San Luis Obispo. Yeah, I don't know how to say that, but all right. So Bitticker locked down for a little bit, so we're gonna hop on back to Norris. So in November 1969, Roy Norris was arrested for his first known sexual offense. He was charged with both rape and assault with attempt to commit rape. In a latter incident, he had attempted to force his way into the car of a lone woman. 3 months later, in February 1970, Norris attempted to deceive a lone woman into allowing him to enter her home. When the woman refused, he attempted to break into her house. The woman phoned the police, who arrested Norris before he had the opportunity to cause the woman any harm. But like shit, he did. That's traumatic. Less than 3 months after.
Yeah, I was gonna say
that's a bit traumatic.
You know, I'm happy you throw that out there too, because he said, you know, they say you got it from the report, but they say cause her no harm. No, he definitely caused her some harm. You know what I'm saying? Mental harm a lot of times can be more It's actually it's
She
more
probably don't even
long
want to leave her
term.
crib after
Yeah,
that.
it's
You know
more
what I'm saying?
long term pain than physical is. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that trauma could live with you for a long time.
Yeah, but less than 3 months after this offense, Norris was diagnosed by a military psychologist who's with schizoid personality disorder. He was given an administrative discharge from the Navy under terms labeled as psychological problems. In May 1970, Norris, still on bail for his latest offense, attacked a female student whom he had been stalking on the grounds of the San Diego State University campus. Like,
So his thing was attacking women.
yeah, you see how the other dude, he was more like theft and robbery. This
Yeah.
nigga is the creep. You feel me? Norris had repeatedly struck her on the back of the head with a rock until she slumped to her knees before he repeatedly beat her head against the sidewalk as he knelt upon her lower back. Violent as fuck. Hold on, y'all.
And he okay, and so you doing two at a time. So I'm trying to make sure I'm following you right. This is the other guy. This is the one who. This is not the dude who did the who had got the 15, but he only did some of it, and then the 5.
No.
This is the other dude. Okay,
the
cool.
other dude,
So he hasn't really faced no real
no, not yet.
consequences
just
yet.
Into his
right.
Shit.
Okay.
Yeah. So shortly after Norris was charged with assault with a deadly weapon, he was committed to 5 years imprisonment. I can't say that shit for what. Nothing.
They finally got him for something. I love when you get to that part of it.
I don't
Okay.
know how to say this state where the prison he was sent to, was a hospital at Ascadero State Hospital, where he was classified as a mentally disordered sex offender. So, I mean, it's something, I guess.
They probably don't use that term anymore.
I would hope not, because that nigga was violent. It's more than a
Yeah,
sex offender.
that sounds a little
That's like
slap on the wrist ish.
yeah, that nigga beat her in the head into the sidewalk. Like,
yeah.
you know what I mean?
But then again, they only know about this one offense. They don't know about anything else, right?
That shit was
But
violent.
still,
As
you know,
hell. They
yeah,
coulda killed
yeah.
her.
They should label that a little differently. But
Come
once
on.
again, it's a
She
long
probably
time
fucked
ago.
up
So
and probably got mental disabilities.
Yeah.
And, you know what I'm saying? Life, once again. Excuse me. Norris was released from the state hospital in 1975 with 5 years probation, having been declared by doctors as an individual who was, and I quote, no further dangers to others. Lies you tell. They be playing the system, end quote. Just 3 months after his release, Norris approached a 27-year-old woman walking home from a restaurant in Redondo Beach and offered her a ride on his motorcycle. First of all, ladies, you cannot go stranger danger, ladies. Stranger danger. And grab. Go ahead. You say something?
I don't want to ever sound like I'm knocking anybody, but like these people who just go.
Different times.
Listen, let me tell you something, right? Look, check me out. Me as a man, I'm really not with just meeting a girl at the bar and bringing it to the crib. I'm not really with that. Like
back then, the sex, the drugs, it's the 70s, California at that. Like,
well, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But still, ladies. Whew. All right, on his motorcycle and grabbed the woman's scarf, twisting it around her neck before informing her he intended to rape her, and dragging her into the nearby bushes, feeding for her life. The woman did not resist the grape. Although the rape was reported to police, they were initially unable to find the perpetrator. However, 1 month later, the victim observed Norris's motorcycle and noted the license number, which he immediately gave to the police. So he was still in the area, dumbass. Norris was arrested for the rape. 1 year later, he was tried and convicted for the offense and was sent to the California men's colony in San Luis Obispo. While incarcerated there, Norris met and befriended Bitticker. Bum, bum, bum.
Oh, so they met each other.
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay,
Okay, that was me being dramatic.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and then shits begins. Let's get into their little friendship. That's how I have it labeled, friendship, because this shit is wild. Okay? So Bitticker and Norris initially became loosely acquainted, air quote, in 1977, 1 year after Norris arrived at San Luis Obispo. Bitticker's initial impression of Norris upon his arrival at the California men's colony was that he was a savvy individual with largely associated with hardened criminals from the motorcycle gang, in addition to dealing in contraband drugs. So he thought this dude was like a real nigga, real tough. That's what the other dude is thinking of Norris, okay? The pair slowly became more closely acquainted and began talking in friendly terms when Norris taught Bitticker how to construct jewelry. According to Norris, Bitticker saved him from being attacked by fellow inmates. They was gonna get that ass, Mr. Postman. Nigga dropped the soap on a test.
Bitticker, the one that was raping women, right?
Yeah. No, but
Raping
Norris
women.
Norris is the one that was raping women. Bitticker is the nigga with the high IQ that was doing all the robberies.
Oh, they was trying to get Bitticker though. Okay,
Yeah,
got you.
No, they were trying to get Norris. Bitticker saved
Right,
Norris.
got you, because he the one. I'm thinking in my head like the one that had the sexual offenses. That'd be the one that probably would need that. Yeah, okay.
So he helped save them on at least 2 occasions. By 1978, the pair had become close friends, discovering they shared the interest in sexual violence and monogamy. And that's it. Yeah, misogyny. That's what it is. Shit, I got to do better with my handwriting, y'all. With Norris also telling Bitticker the biggest stimulation for him was of seeing frightened young women, adding this was the primary reason he had amassed a lengthy record for sexual offenses. Bitticker, who was not known to be violent, because Bitticker, he's a thief. He likes to rob motherfuckers.
Yeah.
So he listening to Norris say all this wild shit, have committed only sexual offenses prior to his meeting Norris. So he hadn't did shit yet until he met Norris, which like to fuck with the girls. Himself divulged to Norris that if he ever raped a woman, he would kill her, so not to have to leave a witness. So, and it begins. When alone, the pair regularly discussed plans to assault and murder teenage girls after they were released. This shared fantasy evolved into an elaborate plan to murder one girl of each teenage year, so starting from 13 all the way until 19.
So dude who's robbing stuff already had these like
but I
these
guess he
aggressive
never
sexual.
acted on it, or
Right.
it was
He just
never known.
Okay. So homeboy
And Norris
brought it
was
out.
and Norris was out there doing what he fucking do.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They vowed to become reacquainted once they were released, so they could go on.
Yeah, do what they do, little sick mother. Yeah.
So I'll get into the release, and then we'll probably maybe pause it after I finish that up, and then we got to get into the rest of the story. So
maybe it's gonna be a 2-part episode. This part 1 right here.
Okay. Excuse me, y'all. Bitticker was released from the California prison on October 15, 1978. He returned to LA and found work as a skilled mechanic. The work earned Bitticker close to $1,000 a week, and despite classifying himself as a loner, he became friendly with several people in his neighborhood, earning a reputation as a generous and helpful individual who occasionally donated money to the Salvation Army. So, living a decent life, I guess. He bought a large amount of fast food and wine, which he passed out to the homeless in downtown LA. Bitticker became popular amongst the local teenagers due to him always having.
Yeah, I was gonna say he was on some other shit.
Having beer and Mary Jane in his Burbank motel where he lived, and would remain a popular place for teenagers to socialize. So he had all the kids coming to his house. Creep, creep. 3 months after Bitticker's release from prison on January 15th, 1979, Norris was released from prison and moved into his mother's home in Redondo Beach. Within 1 month of his release, he had raped a woman who he then simply abandoned in a desert. He soon found employment as an electrician in Compton, straight out of Compton, in the hood, y'all. Shortly after, he received a letter from Bitticker. These niggas found each other. And I wonder how, because they ain't had I guess they had the info. He knew he was going to his mama's house.
Yeah, that's probably what it was.
I was thinking, like, how they even, but yeah. In late February, the pair met at a hotel and rekindled their plan to kidnap and rape girls. This sounds like a fucking love story, or horror story at best, but yeah. In order for the pair to abduct teenage girls, Bitticker decided they would need a van as opposed to a car. With financial assistance from Norris, Bitticker bought a silver gray 1977 GMC Vandura. In February 1979, the van was windowless on one side and had a large passenger side door, so the stranger danger van, sliding door. According to Bitticker, when viewing this sliding door, he realized he or Norris could pull up, and I quote, I should say quote, pull up real close and not have to open the door all the way, so they could just go ahead and snatch a motherfucker real quick.
Man,
Like they've been planning, you feel me? These little girls didn't stand
I mean,
no
I guess them. I
chance.
guess they for the people who do things like that, it makes sense to have that kind of van. You know what I'm saying? I guess it's like in there for those type of people, that's common sense, I guess. But just hearing it is just like just hearing them actually voice the fact that, oh man, we can actually pull up and just
Like they got
slide
it
the door open and
planned
snap.
out.
You know what
Like
I'm saying?
motherfuckers probably even acting. I'm gonna go as far as say they probably was even acting this shit out. Creepers, like they didn't probably practice or some shit. Like see how slow they could drive. You know what I'm saying? Like shit. Wow. Then they had the nerve, and I'm gonna end it here with the release for this part. They named the van. What do you think the nickname? Looking. What you think the nickname was? Give me some. All right.
Yeah, I don't even know.
They nicknamed the van Murder Mac.
Murder Mac.
Murder Mac.
These motherfuckers is psycho.
Crazy as hell.
Even just have a nickname for a period is crazy.
They didn't thought like that's like what the fuck. They should make a movie. They ain't got no movies about this. Like this one, y'all, and we ain't even like the next episode is we gonna get into the real shit. But
hey, so as y'all see, this is only part one. It's a 2-part
man,
episode, right? In my opinion, this was already kind of packed with a good amount of action and little crazy little twists and stuff like that. If part two get even better, I'm here for it. I hope y'all here for it too. But it's your homeboy Cuff with the Unusual Monsters podcast.
And your girl T.
Appreciate y'all stopping by. Make sure y'all come back for part two. And once again, hit that like button, hit that share button, hit that subscribe button.
Yeah,
all of that, man. You feel me? And we are on everything: Twitch,
Anchor,
YouTube,
Spotify.
Anchor, Spotify, Apple, all that good shit. Holla at us. But yeah, man, we out of here. Catch us on part two.